from it is with a major fiscal reform. Now, one possibility, which I think is certainly a real possibility, is once you see the inflation risk premium getting high and you see that fiscal dominance is imminent, then you might find the political leadership to tackle it. I'm not saying it's impossible, and some people might think it's likely, but that's going to be a very painful process because the longer you wait, the bigger the lift to fix Medicare. And let's be clear here, what are the three drivers of the fiscal problem? Medicare, Social Security, and defense spending.
Right.
None of those looks like there's certainly no indication that they're going to fix themselves. So I think we're in for a rough ride.
Charles, thank you very, very much. I hope you come back soon. Luskin. Don, I'm sure you heard the interview. Just, I mean, your thoughts on where we are. Obviously, to Charles's point, on the arithmetic side of it, we've been talking about these levels, right? The levels of debt and deficits for a long time, and people have been worried about them for a long time. It feels like at this point, maybe we've become somewhat immune to them.
Well, look, can I begin just by saying that, give me credit for being a conservative, being a libertarian, like you, like Charles. We don't want a lot of deficits. We don't want a lot of debts. We don't want a huge government doing stupid things with the money that it borrows. But this is all absolutely ridiculous fantasy. His statement included the word if so many times. So if this institution does that, and 5 years from now, if another institution does another thing, then we'll have 40% inflation. Oh, come on. What you just said is so true. We have heard these kinds of ghost stories around the campfire endlessly for 40 years, and nothing ever goes wrong. So why this time? So Charles talks about these, risk premiums in the bond market. Well, he's worried about inflation. We know exactly what the inflationary risk premium is in the 10-year. Just look at the TIPS break even. It's completely normal. It's exactly the same level it's been for 25 years. This is all just a fantasy. This is a hoax. Nothing like this is happening.
Would there ever be a time that you would be concerned about it? Is there a number, let's say the TIPS yield or anything else that moves? I mean, because is it just inevitable then that this piles up, it keeps piling up, if we have to spend $1 trillion a year on interest on the debt?
No. For one thing, our debt service as a share of GDP is 2.4%. It was higher than that for all 17 years between 1982 and 1998, 17 years without a break, worse than it is today. And those were literally the best 17 years in the history of the U.S. stock market, with compound annual growth rate was 19%. Okay? This is all just a ridiculous false hope.
I think it's great for the stock market. I'm just worried about Main Street.
If you have the kind of inflationary catastrophe where Charles's scenario of taxing the banks into oblivion in order to fund the federal government, that's going to be bad for Wall Street. That's going to be bad for Main Street. That's going to be bad for your street. We are not talking about Wall Street versus Main Street. He's talking about an economic Armageddon,
right?
And we got better things to worry about.
30 seconds, more to something that's going to be a little bit sooner than the economic Armageddon. Wednesday, the Federal Reserve. What are you anticipating? I mean, no one's expecting a cut, but do you think they'll be able to speak about their policies being sufficiently restrictive?
They've been saying their policy is extremely restrictive for 2 years. 2 years is long enough for extremely restrictive policy to have caused a recession. Do you already see the recession? I don't. Right. Do you see inflation basically back to target? I do. So I hope they're going to just pat themselves on the back and move along.
All right, we'll see. Don, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Talk to you again real soon.
Thank you.
All righty.
The market tends to do well from the last Fed rate hike until the first cut. You pointed out, after the first cut, look out. Why do they cut? Because the economy's weak. Earnings are not coming through, and that's when the stock market goes down.
Are you bracing? Looking at your note, it feels like you may be bracing for a potential recession from the work that the Fed's already put in.
Yes, certainly a slowdown of significance. I think the economy is slowing. You get one good number, you get one bad number. Take the PMIs from last week. Services good, manufacturing not good. This is a bifurcated period. It's a confusing period, Charles. But stocks, that is big stocks. AI 10, most of the Mag 7. they're carrying the day. The average stock's not doing well. You know that.
Yeah. So we've got risk appetite still higher, elevated, volatility essentially non-existent. The VIX have plummeted, and no one seems to be afraid. Should that make us afraid?
I think we should have a little caution. Look, anytime the stock market's selling over 20 times earnings, you have to say, what's the good news that's gotten us there? Can it be sustained? And you hear me talk about a slowing economy, maybe not making the earnings expectations. So don't stay in front of the freight train called momentum. You can get hit really hard and fast and smashed. You've got to be playing here, but you got to be careful. And what it is you own, you better focus on names that you think can hold up in a more difficult period.
And Bob, I got less than a minute ago. I got some names that you are adding to. I'm going to share them with the audience, and I'll speak at the symbol for folks listening on radio. Target, TGT, American Express, AXP, CI. Is that Chubb or am I not Chubb? But Cigna, right? IBM, Lowe's, LW, and Visa. I do want to ask you though, before I let you go, the outsized role of NVIDIA in this market. I mean, you've been around for a long time. Have you seen anything like it, and does it worry you at all?
Not really. Own the stock. I think you have to own the stock. You can be careful how much you do own. This is very unique. It's pretty special, and it's a special company. So don't ignore it. You have to have some in your portfolio.
Absolutely. Bob, it's always a pleasure not only to start a show off with you, but the week. Thank you so much, my friend.
Have a good day, the Big Oomph.